Good afternoon. I, Bhavna, Faculty, School of Finance and Commerce, Gulgutias University, Greater Noida, is going to give a presentation on the topic game theory. As we know that the game theory is one of the techniques of the operational research, let us learn that what is the game theory. The following are the objectives. The first objective is the introduction to the game theory. The second objective is to study the various assumptions of the game theory. The third objective is to study the various significance of the game theory. And the fourth one is to study what are the various limitations which are associated with the game theory. That the game theory is developed by Professor John Morton and Oscar Morgan in 1928. Game theory is that body of knowledge which provides you a great help in taking the decisions when two or more rational or intelligent occupants are involved under the situation of conflict and the competition. We can say that the approach of the game theory is to seek to determine a rival most profitable counter strategy to one best move. It helps in determining the best course of action of the firm in the view of the expected counter moves from the competitors. The following are the assumptions of the game theory. In the game theory, we are having the defined number of the competitors. The second assumption is that there is a conflict of interest between them. The third is that each player is available with them a finite courses of action. The next is player knows all the possible available choices but does not know which one is going to be chosen. The next is players simultaneously select their respective courses of action. The next is the players are always fixed and they need to be determined in advance. The following is the classification of the game theory. The first is two-person game. In the two-person game, we are having the game with the number of two players only. The next is n-person game. In n-person game, we are having the game with n number of players. That is, it can be more than two players. The next is zero-sum game. In this, a game in which the sum of the amount which is won by all the players is equals to that sum of the amount which is lost by all the losers. The next is non-zero sum game, in which the sum of the gains and losses both are not equal to each other. So, this was the classification. The next is non-zero sum game. As we have already discussed that in non-zero sum game, the sum of gain and loss is not equal. The next is pure strategy game, a game in which the best strategy for each player is to play one strategy. It means the one strategy need to be played throughout the game. The next is mixed strategy game. In the mixed strategy game, a game in which each player they employs the different strategies and these strategies are being adopted at the different time in the game means all the strategies will be adopted at the different frames of the time. So here we have been completed with the classification of the game theory. The following is the significance of the game theory. It helps in decision making. Game theory it develops the framework for analyzing decision making under the situation of interdependence of the firm with the existing uncertainties. about the competitor's reaction to any course of action which are to be adopted by the firm. The next is to provide the scientific quantitative technique. The theory outlines a scientific quantitative technique which is very much fruitfully used by the player to arrive at the optimum strategy which has been given the firm's objective. The next is give insight into the situation on conflicting results. Game theory gives insight into the several less known aspects which arises in the situation of conflicting interest. For example, it describes and explains the phenomena of the bargain. So, these are the various types of the significance of the game theory. The following are the limitations of the game theory. The assumption that a player have a knowledge about their own payoff and payoff of others are really very unrealistic. He can make only the guess of its own and their rival strategy. The second is as the number of the minimum and minimax and maximum. It shows that the gaming strategy they become more increasingly complex and difficult. In practice, there are many firms in oligopoly situation and game theory cannot be useful in such a situation. The assumption of minimum and minimax shows that the players are risk adverse and they have the complete knowledge about the strategy. These do not see in the practical. The next is rather than each player in oligopoly situation working under the uncertain condition, the player will allow each other to share the various secrets of the business in order to work out in the pluralism.